The Japanese-American Experience During World War II by Quinn and Haley Vu.
The white Americans were already prejudiced to the Japanese Americans to begin with, but after the bombing of Pearl Harbor during World War II, the U.S. government thought that the Japanese Americans might be a part of this act. Because they originated from Japan, the U.S. government was afraid of any possible spies among the Japanese Americans. Before the Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps, they were harassed at or teased by white Americans. People spit at their feet when they walked by or even tripped them. Stores, gas stations, and other places owned by Japanese Americans were shut down or sold to other people. In neighborhoods, a few people would put a sign on their house that said, "No Japs wanted." Some people said that if they would even kill a Japanese American if they came near them. A government official said that if a Jap came near them, they would hang them on a tree. Before they left to the internment camps, the government had to send the FBI to search through their house and belongings to see if they carried any bombs or weapons. They weren't even allowed to bring precious and valuable keepsakes on their trip to the internment camps. While they were there, people even sold the Japanese Americans' former houses to other neighbors. In the beginning, when the Japanese Americans were sent to the camps, they tried to resist the government by holding riots in the camps and vandalizing the camps. They tried to test the government by refusing to attend the camps. At a few of the riots, they would burn posters of government officials. Some even formed resistances and tried to escape. If a resistance group was found trying to escape or plot a plan, they would be shot on sight. After a while, they gave up, but after being there for too long, they couldn't stand it and resorted to violence and fought all the guards. While they were at the camps, they could only bring little amounts of clothes and what they could carry. The rest of their possessions were thrown or sold away to other people. The houses that they had to live in were very small. 3 families would have to fit in one small house. If there was no room, people would have to sleep outside or in the horse stables. Every day they would have to follow a schedule and a curfew. The children would wake up, eat breakfast, go to school, eat lunch, go home, help their parents, eat dinner, and go to bed. Adults would have to do the same, except for they would have to go to work instead of school. The food that was provided there was dull and bland. They rarely got to consume meat and was only allowed to drink water. Most of the things that they ate were stale bread, starchy potatoes, and old vegetables. Whenever they ate, they would be charged 50 cents for each meal. They were, however, allowed to practice their religious beliefs. There would be a church or worship area for whatever religion they practiced. Some people died of heat strokes or simply because it was too cold and the government didn't provide blankets. If they were sick, they were given inadequate medicine that didn't work at some times. The Japanese American children went to segregated schools before they were put into internment camps, but after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. This is a map where the internment camps are located. This shows that the citizenship rights of the Japanese Americans were truly.
Even though the Japanese Americans' rights were blatantly taken away from them, they still felt like they had a responsibility to their country. They wanted to do something big to show the Americans that they were as good as any other American. So, while the Japanese Americans were at the internment camps, some men thought that it would be a good idea to prove to the American government that they were loyal by joining the army and helping to fight the Japanese enemies. Originally, the government didn't allow the Nisei, or Japanese Americans, to join the military, but something changed their mind. On January 19, 1942, all Nisei students in the Reserve Officer Training Corps at the University of Hawaii were all discharged and had their draft status changed to enemy alien. This lowered the morale of the Nisei students so much that they gave up their education and joined the Varsity Victory Volunteers, otherwise known as the VVV. Since Pearl Harbor was bombed, the whole nation was on alert. The VVV built barracks, barricades, dug trenches, quarried rocks, and surface roads in Hawaii to build their defense. The Secretary of War's assistant visited Hawaii and was impressed by the VVV's work and gave them a chance to fight. Therefore, in 1944, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team was formed. The combat team was comprised of the 442nd RCT and the 100th Battalion. Other teams include the 522nd Field Artillery Battalion, the 232nd Engineer Company, and the 206th Army Band. 2/3 of the regiment was from the Hawaiian Islands and about 800 were from the American mainland. Once recruited, the recruits were relocated to Camp Shelby, one of their main training camps. The 442nd RCT's motto was "Go for broke." This was a gambling term that meant to risk everything to achieve one great feat. Because the Nisei had nothing to lose, they joined the army and tried to prove to the U.S. that they were just as good as any other American, or even better. The insignia was first a bloody sword held by a yellow arm representing the Nisei, with a background that had an exploding bomb surrounded by the colors of red, white, and blue, which represented the United States. The regiment was angry and criticized the insignia, saying that the yellow arm was racist. Later on, the insignia was changed to the Liberty Torch on a red, white, and blue background. After the war, the 442nd RCT became the U.S. Army's most decorated regiment. This meant that they were rewarded the most medals out of all the United States Army. The medals include 9,489 Purple Hearts and 21 Medal of Honor. The regiment was nicknamed the Purple Heart Battalion for the great number of Purple Heart medals. Overall, the 442nd Regiment earned a total of 18,143 medals. They still hold the record today.